US President Donald Trump, as it turns out, sent Iran a secret warning about the start of an operation in the Strait of Hormuz, although publicly he uses completely different rhetoric. Today, Donald Trump stated that he demands Iran's surrender and also that Iran wants to make a deal with the United States. But the problem is that, according to him, Iranian representatives speak to him with great respect in private, but then publicly appear on television and deny the very fact of negotiations. But today it turned out that the White House secretly sent Iran a warning on Sunday that it was planning to start a military operation in the Strait of Hormuz, apparently so that Iran would also have time to prepare. My name is Alexei Pichi. Let's discuss this topic together, but before we start, I ask you to subscribe to the channel, like this episode, and leave any comment under this video. This is very important for promoting the content on YouTube, and I would be grateful to you for it. In addition, subscribe to my Telegram channel, Peachy News. The link is in the description of this video. There we publish breaking news as it comes in. So I'll start this episode with the latest statements from Donald Trump. At first, Donald Trump avoided giving a direct answer to the question about a possible ceasefire violation by Iran. Trump was asked about reports that in the last 24 hours the Iranians have already fired several times at American ships and are attacking the United Arab Emirates with rockets and drones. And accordingly, does he, Donald Trump, consider this a violation of the truce? To which Trump replied, quote, "You will find out about it because I will let you know. They know what to do, or rather, more importantly, they know what not to do. And that's all." Immediately after that, Donald Trump stated that Iran wants to make a deal with the United States and emphasized that Iranian representatives speak to him personally with great respect in private. However, then they appear publicly on television and deny the very fact of negotiations with the American president. He called such behavior games but emphasized that Iran really is seeking an agreement. Next, I will quote him. "I can say the following. Iran wants to make a deal. What I don't like about Iran is that they talk to me with such great respect. And then they go on television and say, we didn't talk to President Trump, but I just spoke with them. But they say, we didn't talk to the president. So they're playing games, but let me tell you, to make a deal, and who wouldn't want to, when your armed forces are completely destroyed and we can do anything we want with them, who wouldn't want that?" In the end, Donald Trump said that Iran should raise the white flag of surrender and give up. Quote, "We don't play like that anymore. We're doing things the old-fashioned way, and they should raise. They're very proud. Maybe you won't see a white flag, but basically they already have. They should raise the white flag of surrender." But in the end, after all these loud speeches, Axios reports that the Trump administration on Sunday informed Iran through Backchannels about the upcoming US operation to escort ships through the Strait of Hormuz and warned Tehran against interference. Here is a quote from Axios. "The personal message indicates that the White House wanted to reduce the risk of potential escalation. But despite the warning, the Iranians carried out a series of attacks on US Navy ships, commercial vessels, and the United Arab Emirates." On Tuesday, US Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff General Dan Kane downplayed the significance of the Iranian attacks and stated that the ceasefire remains in effect. Nevertheless, some American and Israeli officials believe that President Trump may give the order to resume the war as early as this week if the diplomatic deadlock continues. And later, U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth admitted that the U.S., quote, "is communicating with the Iranians both openly and secretly so that they would allow this defensive operation to take place in the interests of the whole world." This statement surprised many people. Once again, the U.S. Secretary of Defense says that the United States asked Iran to allow them to carry out the operation without consequences. But in the end, Iran was warned and Iran had time to prepare. As a result, on the first day of the operation, on Monday, Iran carried out several attacks on U.S. Navy ships passing through the strait, as well as on other commercial vessels in the region and on targets in the United Arab Emirates. At a press conference on Tuesday, Dan Kane stated that the Iranian attacks were, quote, "below the threshold for resuming major hostilities." And Pete Hegseth stated that supposedly the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and the politicians and negotiators in Iran they communicate with are acting separately. That's why you can't say that the truce has been broken. Like, we agreed to a truce with some people, but it's being violated by, well, others. So, kind of, it's not comparable here. Well, let me quote Pete Hegseth. Sometimes the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps of Iran takes actions that go beyond what the Iranian negotiators might want. Their task is to restrain them and create conditions for making a deal. The American military is ready to quickly resume the war if Trump gives the appropriate order. But for now, the ceasefire is holding. In fact, the US operation in the first 24 hours did not lead to a significant increase in the flow of oil or cargo through the Hormuz Strait. The US Central Command reported that on Monday, the first day, 2 US-flagged vessels passed through the strait, and on Tuesday, none. Although Pete Hegseth stated, quote, hundreds more vessels are lining up. However, at the moment, it seems that most shipping companies do not trust the Trump administration's statements that the shipping lane through the strait is now open. Iran has stated that any American vessels in the strait will be considered a legitimate target. And next, I'll quote the command of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. The Hormuz Strait will not be opened just by a social media post from the President of the United States. The management and control of this waterway are in the hands of Iran. So, as part of Trump's operation, the US is contacting hundreds of ships representing 87 countries that are currently in the Persian. In particular, the Trump administration has stated that it is moving forward with further military actions to open the Strait of Hormuz, including joint efforts by the US State Department and international partners to expand the sharing of security information on this waterway. The American president, in turn, noted that these actions are intended to free people, companies, and countries that have done absolutely nothing wrong. They have become victims of circumstances. And this is the United States military mission to open the Strait of Hormuz, called Project Freedom. It includes guided missile destroyers, more than 100 military aircraft, the Navy, the Air Force, drones, satellites, and more than 15,000 personnel. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, I would of course be grateful for that. You can do this with any donation or a paid membership using the links and details in the description of this video or by using the QR code on your screen. That's it for now. Take care. Goodbye, everyone.